Hello to all fans of Naruto Lemon. I will post all Naruto Lemon Yaoi, Yuri, or Naruko Lemon stories only on the Boosty channel because Uncle YouTube condemns this. Therefore, I invite everyone who wants Naruto Lemon content to my Boosty channel. Good luck.
お前はどこまで見えている俺死に様か
My story. Chapter 1, New Dawn. The sun slowly rose over the village of Konoha, painting the sky in warm shades of pink and gold. The air was filled with the freshness and aroma of the cherry blossoms that bloomed throughout the village at this time of year. The first rays of the sun slowly seeped through the morning mist, illuminating cozy houses and quiet streets, where every stone kept the history of generations. In one of these houses, in the very heart of Konoha, there was a house filled with laughter and warmth, where Minato and Kushina lived, the parents of a small, but unusually gifted girl named Naruko. Naruko woke up early, before the sun had fully risen above the horizon. Her room was furnished simply but comfortably. On the walls hung photographs of her parents in their youth, on the shelf lay books on ninja techniques and manuscripts about ancient teachings. She quietly got out of bed, trying not to wake her parents, who, as always, were still sleeping. Naruko carefully approached the window and opened it, letting in the first fresh winds and the sounds of the awakening village. At that moment, she felt an unusual peace and confidence, as if the world around her was preparing for something great. The girl listened carefully to the birds singing and the rustling leaves that greeted the new day. Her heart beat faster, because today was an important day, her first day of training at the Ninja Academy. This news was accompanied by both excitement and trepidation, because a whole world of new knowledge, adventures, and, perhaps, unexpected discoveries about herself opened up ahead. Before she could get lost in her thoughts about the future, she heard light footsteps coming down the hallway. Minato and Kushina were already awake, ready to start their day. The sound of soft laughter and quiet conversation came from the kitchen area, where the smell of freshly baked buns and aromatic tea filled the space. Naruto carefully walked into the living room and saw that her parents had already set the table for breakfast. Kushina smiled when she saw her daughter and invited her to join them for the morning meal. "Good morning, my dear," Kushina said, hugging Naruto. "Today is your first day at the Ninja Academy. I am so proud of you." Minato also came up and added with a gentle smile, "You will become a great ninja, Naruto. We believe in you." Naruto returned to her parents with a smile, feeling the warmth and support coming from them. This moment seemed like the perfect start to her journey. Together, they sat at the table, enjoying a moment of peace and family before heading off to meet their destiny. After breakfast, Naruto put on her academy uniform, carefully prepared and tailored with the latest technology. She checked her tools, books, and scrolls needed for classes. Picking up her backpack, she glanced at her parents, who watched her leave at the door. Minato nodded slightly, and Kushina raised her hand in a farewell gesture. "Good luck to you, Naruto. Don't be afraid of difficulties, we are always here for you," Kushina said softly. With these words, she walked out of the house and headed towards the Ninja Academy, where a new life full of discoveries, trials, and unexpected encounters awaited her. On the way, she enjoyed the surrounding landscape, children's voices playing happily near the village walls, old people slowly strolling along the alleys, and talented students hurrying to class. At the academy, she was greeted by friendly faces of teachers and seniors, who immediately noticed that a special student stood before them. Naruto quickly made new acquaintances, demonstrating her friendliness and openness. Her knowledge and abilities stood out even among her classmates, many of whom were already known for their outstanding skills. In a short time, she earned the respect and trust of both her peers and mentors. It was on this first day that Naruko met Sasuko. Sasuko, a charming and mysterious girl with a cold but penetrating gaze, was also new to the academy. But she was already legendary. They said that she was a genius and had an unusual mind, capable of solving the most difficult problems. Naruko approached her with a slight smile and extended her hand in greeting. "Hello, I'm Naruto. You're probably new here, like me," she said with friendly warmth in her voice. Sasuko looked at her outstretched hand with a little surprise, but then gently accepted it. Her voice was calm, but a hint of hidden joy could be detected in it. "Hello, Naruto." "Yes, I'm Sasuko. Nice to meet you." Their eyes met for a moment, and an invisible tension seemed to form between them, something they both sensed but did not yet fully understand. They exchanged their first impressions of the school, their hopes and dreams. Naruto shared her desire to become a strong ninja to protect her home village, and Sasuko shared her eagerness for knowledge and research into ancient techniques. During the day, they spent a lot of time together, helping each other with tasks and meeting new people. Their friendship grew stronger with every minute. They were on the same wavelength, understood each other without words, and their eyes sparkled with genuine sympathy. Naruto felt that with Sasuko, she could be herself, without unnecessary masks and pretense, and this feeling was priceless for her. When evening came and the school day came to an end, they found themselves on the roof of one of the academy buildings, where they could retire and talk in private. Under the starry sky, illuminated by the moon, they sat side by side, enjoying the silence and the soft light of the night sky. "I feel like our meeting is not a coincidence," Naruto whispered, looking at the shining stars. "There is something that connects us." Sasuko nodded, her eyes glittering in the moonlight. "Perhaps this is fate, or some ancient prophecy. We will become great ninjas together." At that moment, an incomprehensible feeling of closeness, warmth, and mutual understanding arose between them that promised to change their lives forever. They had no idea of the great trials that lay ahead, the secrets hidden in the depths of their souls, and how their bond would be tested in the most difficult moments. Thus began their journey together, a journey full of adventures, discoveries, and deep feelings that would become the foundation for a future filled with strength, friendship, and love. Naruto and Sasuko already felt that there was something more than just friendship between them, something special that would guide them through life and help them overcome any obstacles. The new days promised to be eventful and eventful. Naruto continued to study ninja techniques, demonstrating incredible diligence and talent. It turned out that her abilities exceeded the expectations of her teachers. She quickly mastered complex jutsu, demonstrating natural dexterity and intuition. Each of her successes caused admiration from those around her, but she always remained modest, knowing that there was still a lot of work and discoveries ahead. Sasuko was not lagging behind in her pursuit of excellence. Her analytical mind and unconventional approach to problem-solving often led their team out of difficult situations. Together they took on the most ambitious tasks, studied ancient manuscripts, and looked for ways to improve their skills. Their cooperation was harmonious and productive, each complemented the other, creating a powerful union of talents and hearts. One such day was the discovery of a mysterious ancient book in the academy library. Naruko and Sasuko, while researching ancient scrolls, came across a mention of a prophecy related to the Jinchuriki of all the tailed beasts. Naruko felt her heart beat faster. She somehow knew that this related to her. The pages of the book spoke of a girl who would be able to unite the power of the eight-tailed beasts to bring peace and balance to the ninja world. Sasuko, noticing the worry on her friend's face, carefully placed her hand on her shoulder. "Naruko, are you okay?" she asked with concern. Naruko nodded, trying to hide the growing feeling of misunderstanding and worry. "It's just that this prophecy, it seems to be talking about me," Naruto whispered, quietly turning the pages of the ancient book. Sasuko looked at the text carefully and then at Naruko's face. "Maybe this is really about you. But whatever it means, we'll get through this together," she said firmly, assuring her friend. Thus began their in-depth study of the tailed beast's history and their connection to Naruto's future. The girls spent countless hours in the library, researching ancient texts, conversing with wise teachers and village elders. Each discovery brought them closer to solving the mystery, and their friendship grew stronger with each passing day. They began to notice strange dreams and visions that Naruko was having, images of powerful beasts with tails, and the feeling that these creatures were trying to speak to her. These dreams were vivid and filled with symbols, and Naruko felt that they had significance for her path. Sasuko helped her analyze these dreams, trying to find logic and connections between them and the ancient prophecy. Meanwhile, their training continued as usual. Naruto showed incredible abilities in combat training, skillfully combining speed, strength, and strategic thinking. Her alliance with Sasuke helped them exchange knowledge and techniques, improving and growing as ninja. They often spent evenings on the training field, honing their skills, experimenting with new combinations of combat techniques and jutsu techniques. One such evening, after a particularly intense training session, when the moon had already risen high above the village, they sat on the grass and looked at the starry sky. Naruto shared her fears and hopes regarding the prophecy and her destiny. "Sometimes I'm afraid this responsibility might break me," she admitted, looking into the distance. "What if I can't handle the power I'm about to gain?" Sasuko turned to face her, her eyes reflecting the same selflessness and confidence she usually exuded. "Naruko, you are not alone in this. We are together. And I believe in you. Your strength is not only in your ability to control the Bijuu, but also in your heart, which always strives for justice and peace." These words gave Naruko strength and confidence. She smiled, feeling the warmth of her friend's sincere support. Their bond grew stronger, and every difficulty they went through together only strengthened their friendship and gave birth to something more subtle and invisible, but incredibly valuable: love that could survive any trials. Thus, the first day at the academy was only the beginning of a long journey, on which Naruko and Sasuke had to learn a lot about themselves, about the ninja world, and how their destinies would intertwine with the ancient powers of the tailed beasts. They did not know what difficulties lay ahead, but they were sure that together they could cope with everything. And this confidence, reinforced by mutual love and deep understanding, was their greatest weapon on the path to a bright future. Chapter 2: The Secret of the Tailed Beasts. Within days of their first meeting, Naruko and Sasuke had already become inseparable friends and comrades. Their joint studies, research, and discussions about the prophecy only strengthened their bond. The Ninja Academy continued to provide them with new opportunities for training and self-improvement, but at the heart of it all was a mystery that drew them deeper into a world of ancient mysteries: the prophecy of the Jinchuriki of all the tailed beasts. One day, while sitting in the shade of an old tree near the library, the girls once again began studying ancient scrolls and books. Naruto held an old parchment map in her hands, on which important places related to the history of the tailed beasts were marked. She felt a slight thrill as her fingers touched the yellowed pages, as if she were touching a piece of history that could shed light on her own destiny. "Sasuke, look," Naruto began, pointing to one of the symbols on the map. "This sign appears in several manuscripts. It is said to be associated with the place where an alliance with one of the tailed beasts was first made." Sasuke frowned, studying the symbol thoughtfully. "Perhaps this will help us understand how to control the power of the Bijuu," she suggested, her analytical mind immediately beginning to hypothesize, connecting the information she had found with what they had already learned. And so they began to formulate a plan. Every piece of information they found, every new entry in the ancient books, brought them closer to solving the mystery. They gradually began to piece together the history of the alliance between the Jinchuriki and the tailed beasts, learning about ancient rituals, ways to harness power, and those who had wielded similar powers in the past. With each discovery, their understanding deepened, and their interest and determination grew stronger. Soon, Naruko began to experience new, more vivid and intense dreams. These dreams were different from the previous fragments of images. They featured majestic beings of great power and wisdom, as well as scenes from ancient times when humans and the tailed beasts lived in harmony. In one dream, she saw herself standing on top of a mountain, with 8 powerful tailed beasts flying around her, presumably all of the tailed beasts. These images left her with a deep sense of the significance of her path and the responsibility that rested on her shoulders. Waking up early one morning, Naruko felt a tremor in her soul. She immediately ran to Sasuke to share the dream she had seen. Sasuke listened attentively, her face focused, trying to catch every detail of her friend's description. "These dreams, it's like they're trying to tell us something," Naruko said, her voice shaking. "I feel like the tailed beasts see me as the key to something important." Sasuke thought about it, her mind quickly analyzing possible connections. Perhaps your dreams are the tailed beast's way of contacting you, of conveying knowledge or even warnings, she suggested. We must be attentive and look for clues in them. The two girls decided to keep journals of their dreams, recording every detail, every feeling. They also began to discuss them with experienced guides and wise elders who could shed light on the nature of these visions. With each conversation, they felt that they were getting one step closer to understanding their role and purpose. As Naruko and Sasuke became immersed in the prophecy, they began to see how their own lives were intertwined with the ancient events. They discovered that the prophecy spoke of not only a girl who would become the Jinchuriki of all the tailed beasts, but also of a man who would become her mentor and ally. These lines made them wonder if there was another figure in their midst who was key to fulfilling Naruko's destiny. One evening, when the moon lit up the quiet streets of Konoha, the girls went to the temple where, according to legend, ancient scrolls and artifacts related to the tailed beasts were kept. The temple was old, its walls were covered with symbols and carvings telling stories of the past. There they met a wise old man who was the keeper of knowledge about the tailed beasts. I see determination and aspiration for truth in your eyes, the elder said, looking at them carefully. The prophecy you seek requires not only knowledge, but also purity of soul. It speaks of a union that has no equal, a union based on loyalty, love, and mutual understanding. Naruto and Sasuke exchanged glances. This conversation gave them even more determination and confidence that they were on the right path. The old man continued. To fully understand the prophecy, you will have to go through trials, collect fragments of ancient wisdom and, most importantly, gain the trust of the tailed beasts. Remember, the power you gain will not only be a weapon, but also a responsibility for peace and harmony. As the girls delved deeper into the world of the tailed beasts, their relationship grew even closer. They shared not only knowledge, but also personal experiences, fears, and hopes. Naruko felt that Sasuke was not just a friend, but also her reliable rear, the person she could always rely on. Sasuke, in turn, saw Naruko as a source of inspiration and support, which helped her cope with any difficulties. Together, they went through many training sessions, honing their combat skills and developing new strategies. Their teamwork became a model for the rest of the academy students. They complemented each other like two halves of a whole, and their combined efforts led to amazing results. At the same time, their research led to new discoveries. In the academy archives, they found a mention of an ancient ritual that allowed the Jinchuriki to establish a connection with all the tailed beasts at once. This ritual was dangerous and required incredible concentration, purity of thoughts, and genuine faith in themselves. Perhaps this was the ritual they had to undergo in order to fully unlock Naruto's potential and fulfill the prophecy. New plans and preparations. Realizing the importance of the journey ahead, Naruko and Sasuke decided to prepare themselves properly. They made a list of knowledge and skills that they needed to learn and began training intensively. Each morning began with meditation, aimed at strengthening the spirit and clearing the mind. They studied ancient breathing techniques that helped them manage energy and tune into contact with the tailed beasts. Their mentors noticed the extraordinary determination and seriousness in the actions of both girls and often shared with them secrets that were available only to a select few. Minato and Kushina, Naruto's parents, also did not remain on the sidelines. They shared their experiences, told stories from the past and supported their daughter in her aspirations. One such day, after a long study session with their parents, Naruto and Sasuke were left alone to discuss new details found in the ancient texts. Look, it talks about a place called the Valley of the Tailed Beasts, Naruko explained, pointing to the text in the ancient manuscript. Perhaps that is where we need to go to perform this ancient ritual and establish a connection with all the Bijuu. Sasuke nodded, her face reflecting concentration and determination. We need to gather all the information we can about the Valley of the Tailed Ones, she said. Find out what the conditions are like there, what resources we'll need, and what dangers we might encounter along the way. They knew the journey might be long and full of surprises, but inside them burned a fire of determination. They were ready for any difficulties, because they knew that together they could overcome everything. Connection with the tailed beasts. With each passing day, Naruko felt a stronger connection with the tailed beasts, who visited her in dreams and meditative states. She began to notice that her perception of the world was changing. She could sense the presence of spirits, and felt the energy around her pulsating in time with her heart. These experiences were sometimes frightening, sometimes inspiring, but always made her feel closer to her destiny. Sasuko watched her friend and studied her changes with interest. It was important for her to understand how contact with the tailed beasts affected her, and how she could help Naruto in this process. Together, they practiced meditation and training aimed at developing sensitivity to spiritual energies and finding inner balance. "I think you're starting to hear their voices," Sasuko said quietly one day as they sat in silence after meditation. "They want to communicate with you." Naruto nodded, feeling a slight tremor from the realization. "Yes, their presence is becoming more and more noticeable," she whispered. "I feel that they trust me, and this gives me strength." Both girls understood that much was waiting for them ahead: trials, travels, discoveries, and, possibly, dangers. But they were united not only by friendship, but also by love, which helped them support each other in difficult moments. They knew that together they would be able to go through any trials, because their hearts were one, and their destinies were intertwined with an invisible thread leading to a great future. Conclusion of the second chapter. And so their story continued, full of mysteries and discoveries. The secret of the tailed beasts was gradually revealed to them, and each new page of the ancient scrolls, each dream and each meditative state led them to an understanding of their destiny. Naruto and Sasuke became stronger both physically and spiritually, their spirits grew stronger, and their trust in each other grew with each passing day. New challenges and discoveries awaited them: meetings with powerful mentors, exploration of ancient temples, battles with dark forces, and, of course, tests of their love and loyalty. But they were ready for anything, because they knew that their union contained a power capable of changing the fate of not only themselves, but the entire world. Chapter 3. Naruto and Sasuke continued their research, delving deeper into the secrets of their prophecy and their connection with the tailed beasts. They already felt how their lives were intertwined with the destinies of powerful creatures, and this thought excited their minds and hearts. One evening, after spending the whole day in the library studying ancient texts, they decided to take a break and headed to a small pond behind the academy. The quiet water reflected the shimmering sky, and a light breeze played with the hair of both girls, filling the atmosphere with peace and mystery. Naruko sat on the shore, her feet in the cool water, watching the reflections of the stars. Her mind was filled with thoughts about the future and her role in this world. It was hard to comprehend that her destiny was so closely tied to the tailed beasts and the ancient prophecy. She wondered how great the burden she would have to bear was, and how she would cope with this knowledge. She felt fear, admiration, and perhaps hope all at once. "What if I can't control this power?" she thought, looking at the shimmering surface of the water. "Will I really be able to bring peace and harmony as the prophecy foretold?" Her mind was troubled with doubts, but she knew that the answers would come with experience and time. Sasuko, who was sitting next to her, watched her friend closely. Her own thoughts were raging with emotions and logical reasoning about what was happening. She was confident in Naruto's abilities and felt that her friend was the key to a great change, but she also knew that their path would be full of trials and difficulties. Naruko is so nervous, Sasuko thought, she doesn't even realize it. Her strength and inner purity will help her overcome any obstacles, but she needs to believe in herself as much as I do. Sasuko considered it her duty to support Naruko, to be there and help her cope with her fears and doubts. The girls were silent for a while, enjoying the silence of the pond and the twinkling of the stars. Suddenly, Naruko interrupted Sasuko's thoughts with a quiet voice. "Have you ever wondered how it all began? What brought us here, to these ancient secrets and destinies?" Sasuko turned to her and looked thoughtfully into her friend's eyes. "Sometimes it seems to me that our meetings and events were predetermined. It was not by chance that we met. It was not by chance that we found these scrolls." Her thoughts flowed freely, and she wanted to share what had long been in her heart. "I feel like there's something bigger than us behind this. Our friendship, our love, they're like threads woven into a single pattern. Maybe this is what fate has in store. Naruto smiled slightly as he listened to Sasuko's words. Her thoughts returned to her role as a Jinchuriki and the duties she would have to fulfill. I have to be strong, not just for myself, but for the ones I love, she thought. For you, Sasuko, and for the future of our world. Naruko's heart was beating faster, and she felt her connection with Sasuko deepen in that moment. She turned to her, catching in her friend's eyes not only compassion, but also the same determination that she felt herself. The two girls stood up silently from the shore, leaving the pond and its quiet surface behind them. They walked along the path, illuminated by the soft light of the moon, discussing their plans for the future and the steps they should take. Their conversation revealed not only friendship, but also the love that was slowly blossoming between them. Naruto reflected on how this union of two strong personalities, two geniuses, was not just a happy coincidence, but an important element in the fulfillment of the prophecy. They were heading to the academy's training field for another day of training and meditation. Their mentors had noticed their bond growing stronger and were giving them increasingly difficult tasks, knowing that these girls were up for any challenge. During one of these training sessions, when they fought side by side, Naruko felt an unusual unity with Sasuko. Her thoughts merged with her friend's movements, and she realized that in moments of battle they acted as one. We are capable of more when we are together, she thought. Images of future battles appeared in her head, behind which stood the tailed beasts and ancient forces, ready to help her at the right moment. Sasuko, fighting alongside Naruko, felt the same harmony. Her thoughts were in the clouds of tactics and strategy. If we can establish an even deeper connection, our strength will be undeniable. We will be able to overcome any obstacles, be it physical or spiritual. She watched Naruko's movements, learning from her intuitive control of chakra and interaction with the world around her. After the intense training, the girls sat down in the shade of an old tree to rest. They were exhausted, but happy with the progress they had made. Naruto closed her eyes, letting her mind wander. Her thoughts returned to the dreams and visions she had seen, that same mountaintop surrounded by tailed beasts, and a quiet voice whispering in her ear. What are they trying to tell me, she wondered. How can I use these visions to better understand myself and my destiny? She felt as if there was something supernatural nearby, watching and guiding her. Her thoughts mingled with the rustling of the leaves, and she felt a slight tingling in her fingertips, as if the energy of something powerful was coursing through her. Sasuko, noticing Naruko's thoughtfulness, placed her hand on her shoulder. What's on your mind? She asked quietly, trying to penetrate the depths of her friend's feelings. Naruto opened her eyes and looked at Sasuko, seeing her own uncertainty and determination reflected in them. I think about what we have to do. About this ritual we learned about. I'm scared, Sasuko. I'm afraid that I won't be able to handle such a huge power. What if I fail you, or the whole village? Sasuko listened carefully, her thoughts full of sympathy and support. Naruko, I believe in you. You are not just a genius, you are special. Your strength and kindness will help you get through this. We are together, and I will always be by your side. We will get through this, because our bond is stronger than any fear. These words were like balm to Naruto's soul. She smiled, feeling the warmth of Sasuko's words. Thank you, Sasuko. Your faith in me means more than you can imagine. Their conversations between training, research, and quiet evenings created a deep emotional connection. They shared not only knowledge and techniques, but also personal experiences, dreams, and fears. Each night brought new reflections for both, Naruko pondering the prophecy and her responsibility, and Sasuko pondering how to support her friend and find answers to the questions that plagued her mind. One evening, while lying on the soft grass under the open sky, Naruko shared one of her new thoughts with Sasuko. Sasuko, what if the tailed beasts didn't choose me just to become a Jinchuriki? But so that I could change their fate, understand their nature, and perhaps find a way to make peace between humans and the tailed beasts forever? Sasuko looked at her in surprise, her thoughts revolving around the idea. That's incredible. If you can truly understand them and establish a connection with them, then you might be able to find a way to prevent the wars and conflicts that are ravaging our world. That's a truly important mission. Naruto felt her heart fill with new meaning. She decided that no matter what obstacles she faced, she would seek this path of peace, unity, and harmony. Her thoughts became clearer. I will not simply become a Jinchuriki for the sake of power or glory. I will use this power to protect my loved ones, to bring peace between humans and the tailed beasts. This is my true path. Sasuko pressed herself closer to her, feeling the same determination in her friend's heart. I'm with you, Naruko. Together, we can achieve great things. These moments of closeness and mutual understanding were a great support for them. Deep down, each of them knew that there was a long road ahead, full of unknowns and dangers, but their friendship and love would help them overcome any difficulties. They felt ready for the trials, knowing that their hearts beat in unison, and their thoughts and goals coincided. And so their story continued, the story of two geniuses whose destinies were intertwined with ancient prophecies and mystical powers. Their thoughts, full of doubts and hopes, intertwined with the reality in which they had to seek answers, gain new knowledge and prepare for the great changes that the future would bring. Chapter 4, Call of Darkness. Naruto and Sasuko continued their journey, taking them deeper into the unknown corners of the world and into the very heart of the secrets that the ninja world hid. Their research and training led them to the realization that something entirely different lay ahead, an encounter with dark forces that would prove the first serious test of their alliance and resolve. One dark, cloudy evening, when the sky seemed especially gloomy, Naruto and Sasuko arrived at an ancient shrine, which was the stuff of legends. This place was considered a portal between worlds, a boundary between light and darkness, where the enormous energy of the tailed beasts and the spirits of antiquity was concentrated. They came here to find answers to many questions that lingered in their minds, and to prepare for the battles to come. Naruto stopped at the stone vault covered in mysterious runes, and took a deep breath. Her thoughts were filled with anxiety and anticipation. What awaits us behind these doors, she wondered. Her heart was beating faster, and her mind was filled with thoughts about how important it was not to lose herself in this challenge. Her connection with the tailed beasts was growing stronger, but at the same time, there was a sense of impending danger. Sasuko, standing next to her, watched her friend with a tense expression. She felt her mind sinking into analyzing the upcoming event. Naruko must be prepared for anything, Sasuko thought. But how can we mentally prepare ourselves to meet the darkness when we don't know what exactly awaits us? She tried to find answers in the books they had studied, in the archives of their mentors' memories, but all this gave only small clues. Meanwhile, the silence around them was broken only by the distant sounds of the night forest. The leaves whispered secrets to the wind, as if warning the girls of the trials to come. Naruko turned to Sasuko and said softly, "We must move on. Not only our lives, but the future of many are in our hands. We must be prepared to face the very darkness within the world and perhaps within ourselves." Sasuko nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "I'm here for you, Naruko. Together, we can do this," she replied, trying to hide her own anxiety behind words of confidence. Images of the coming battle swirled in her mind, detailing every step, every movement that might be needed to defeat the darkness. As they approached the massive door of the shrine, guarded by the silhouettes of ancient warriors painted on the stone, they felt the air around them thicken. Naruto's heavy breathing echoed in her mind, "This place is filled with history and power. I can feel the energy of prophecy vibrating within these walls. But what will happen when the darkness penetrates here?" she thought, pressing her hand to the cold surface of the door. Sasuko stood next to her, running her hand over the onion-shaped amulet her mentor had once given her. "This amulet is our symbol of light and faith," she reminded herself. "It will help us if we stick together and don't retreat." They exchanged glances of support and determination. Naruto took a deep breath and knocked softly on the door. The whisper of an ancient mechanism echoed through the room, and the massive door slowly opened, letting in a dim light that mingled with the shadows and created the illusion of movement. Inside, a room lit by myriads of chandeliers awaited them, the walls of which were painted with images of ancient heroes fighting the forces of darkness. The two girls walked inside, and as soon as they crossed the threshold, the door slammed behind them with a deafening sound. Naruto felt a slight chill down her spine. Something's wrong here, she warned mentally, scanning the area around her. The room was large, and in the center was an altar, on which lay an ancient scroll, glowing with a faint bluish light. Sasuko realized that the scroll was the key to the path ahead. Her thoughts raced. If this scroll contains hints on how to deal with the darkness, it may be what we need. Naruko approached the altar, her heart beating faster. She carefully picked up the scroll, feeling its weight and ancient energy. The scroll had writing on it that resembled the ones they had seen in books, but there were fragments of some dark power in it. She began to read aloud, each of her eyes sliding over the lines as her mind tried to process the meaning of the words. The words of the prophecy described the great test that Jinchuriki and her allies would have to endure, an encounter with the very embodiment of darkness, who wanted to devour the light and destroy the world. This task required not only physical strength, but also the ability to withstand inner fears and doubts. Naruto felt her inner resolve being tested once again. How can I handle such power? She thought, peering at the symbols on the scroll. But if there is anyone who can help me, it is you, Sasuko. Sasuko, noticing the heaviness on Naruko's face, walked up to her and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. She understood how worried her friend was about the challenge ahead, and there was fear in her own soul as well. We have to be strong, she said out loud, trying to bring confidence to her voice. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone who believes in us. The girls decided that they would need to prepare themselves not only physically, but also spiritually to face the darkness. They sat down next to each other on the cold stone near the altar, opened the scroll, and began to study the magical runes that held the keys to harnessing and understanding the dark energy. Their thoughts intertwined with the ancient symbols, as if helping them comprehend their meaning. Naruko felt the dark energy trying to penetrate her mind, but Sasuko, holding her hand tightly, transmitted a feeling of light and support to her. We cannot run from the darkness, Naruto mused in silence, her voice almost inaudible. We must face it, understand its essence, and find the strength to resist it. It is our duty, which is destined by fate. Sasuko nodded, her mind busy planning a strategy. Once we get out of here, we need to find a place where the darkness is most pronounced. There, we can confront it and perhaps find the key to overcoming it, she mused, feeling the pressure on her shoulders. But there is still fear. We need to keep a cool head, keep a clear head. Meanwhile, the night continued to thicken, and shadows began to flicker in the windows of the sanctuary. The girls felt the temperature in the room drop, and a slight chill ran across their skin. Their breath turned to steam, mixing with the shadows and reflections on the walls. They understood that darkness was approaching, and that their preparations must be exhaustive. Naruko, feeling the call of power growing stronger, slowly rose and walked towards one of the ancient statues depicting a majestic being, perhaps one of the tailed beasts. She placed her hand on the cold stone, trying to sense its energy and connect with a spirit that could help her. Her thoughts searched for answers. What would you do if you were me? How do I fight something I cannot understand? She hoped that the spirit of the statue would bring clarity to her mind. Sasuko continued to study the scroll, trying to decipher the remaining lines that she believed contained encrypted instructions for a ritual that could banish the darkness, or at least give them a chance to resist it. Her thoughts wandered through the labyrinths of ancient knowledge. If I can find even the slightest clue, we can prepare for this test. But how to unravel this web of secrets? She felt the weight of the task before her, but her inner fire burned brightly. Gradually, the tension in the air became almost tangible. The girls exchanged glances, full of determination and understanding. They both felt the urge to move forward, despite the fear and uncertainty. The darkness they were about to encounter no longer seemed abstract to them, it was becoming more real with each passing moment. Naruko took a deep breath, feeling her consciousness fill with the light and power that Sasuko was transmitting to her. She knew that the true battle would begin not only outside, but also within herself. She would have to confront her fears, doubts, and painful memories. It was this internal confrontation that could begin to defeat the darkness. In the silence of the sanctuary, their thoughts merged into a single resolve. They understood that there was uncertainty and danger ahead, but together they could face any challenge. Their hearts beat in unison, and their thoughts were focused on one common plan: to prepare for the darkness and protect the light for which they fought. The night continued, and in this ancient place, time seemed to stand still. Naruto and Sasuke, surrounded by the mystical energy of the shrine and the ancient signs on the walls, prepared for the moment when the darkness would emerge from its hiding places. Their inner world played out a battle of light and shadow, and now they were ready to take their first step in this dark dance, knowing that together they would overcome any adversity. Chapter 5. Naruto and Sasuke left the shrine, feeling the weight of the test ahead. Their hearts were racing, and their minds were filled with anxiety and determination. They knew that they would have to fight not only the outer darkness, but also their inner fears, and this thought made them both prepare themselves mentally and physically. The soft light of the moon illuminated their path as they headed deeper into the forest, relying on their instincts and the knowledge they had acquired over the past few days. What will happen next? Naruto thought as she walked alongside Sasuke. Images of the upcoming battle swirled in her mind, shadows breaking through the darkness, ominous whispers echoing in her mind. She recalled the words of the scroll they had read and tried to find answers to her questions in them. Her inner voice told her that the only way to win was to understand the nature of the darkness they would face. I must not only fight but also understand the root of this evil, she thought, feeling her resolve grow stronger with each step. Sasuke walked beside him, her mind focused on strategy. She ran through possible battle scenarios in her head, trying to plan for every detail. Her thoughts were full of analytical calculations. If the darkness goes this way, we need to take a position on high ground to have a clear view. But if it splits into two, we need to be prepared for anything. She valued every moment spent thinking, because it gave her confidence and helped her maintain her composure in the face of the unknown. The forest around them was almost full of rustlings and sounds of night life, but every sound seemed familiar to them, a harbinger of an unknown force pursuing them. Naruko listened to every rustle of leaves, feeling how her connection with the tailed beasts grew stronger. They are somewhere nearby, she thought, feeling faint echoes of their presence in her mind. This mental contact helped her calm down and concentrate on the task. At one point, the girls stopped in a small clearing surrounded by tall trees, under whose shade it was safe to stop for a short rest. They settled down on the soft moss, took out some provisions, and began to talk quietly to distract themselves from the upcoming challenge. There was a feeling of deep closeness and trust between them, which grew stronger with each moment of their journey together. I sometimes wonder what our lives would have been like if we hadn't met, Naruko said quietly, looking up at the night sky. She felt like her thoughts were sincere and open to Sasuke, because there was no room for secrets or omissions between them. Her voice trembled with emotion, but that only added to the sense of sincerity in the moment. Sasuke looked at her friend with warm concern. We didn't meet by chance. Everything that happens makes sense in the context of who we've become, she replied, trying to put confidence into her words. Her own thoughts were filled with images of how one day, looking back, they would see the path they'd taken as a logical chain of events that had led them to this moment. Our bond is what will help us overcome any darkness, she mused, squeezing Naruto's hand. The break in the clearing became a moment for reflection and planning. They discussed their next route, trying to take into account all possible dangers. Naruto suggested going north, where she felt the path filled with the energy of the tailed beasts led. Her intuition often led them in the right direction, and Sasuke trusted her feelings, despite the skepticism inherent in her analytical mind. If we pass through this valley, perhaps we will meet allies we do not yet know about, Naruko guessed. She tried to imagine the events that might happen along the way and how they might affect her. Her thoughts were full of determination and ambition. I must become the person the prophecy destined me to be. But to do that, I will need strength and wisdom that I am only just beginning to acquire. Sasuke was silent for a moment, analyzing the proposed route and possible enemy encounters. Her thoughts quickly turned to what their approach should be to the upcoming battle with the darkness. We need to gather more information. We should understand what exactly we are dealing with before we rush into battle, she mused. She knew that strategic thinking and preparation could be key to their success. As the moon rose higher, they decided to continue their journey. The girls took their gear and set out, realizing that night was the best time to travel, as the dark forces could be less active or, on the contrary, active at this time. Their thoughts intertwined with the nature around them. Every sound, every rustle caused new thoughts about the upcoming test and how they could use their skills and abilities to protect each other and the world around them. Along the way, they encountered a small pack of wolves, moving silently through the trees. Naruko felt comforted by this display of wild nature. It reminded her that even in the darkest places of life, there was beauty and harmony. She paused for a moment and watched the wolves, thinking about how nature managed to maintain balance even in the harshest conditions. Maybe we too can find a balance between light and darkness, she thought, and figure out how to overcome this challenge while still maintaining our humanity and love. Sasuko, watching Naruko, felt her own heart beat faster in anticipation of change. She tried to catch every little detail, every sign that could help them along the way. We're close to the solution, she thought. I can feel it in every cell of my body. We just need to pay attention and not lose focus. They soon reached a large crossroads where they had to make a choice. Naruto studied the symbols etched into the stones along the paths, which she assumed were markers left by ancient guardians of the way. Her mind was racing, trying to match her findings with what they had already learned. If I understood one of the symbols correctly, this path leads to a valley where the tailed beast's energy is particularly strong, she mused, looking back at Sasuko for confirmation. Sasuko studied the map they had drawn based on the information in the scrolls. She tried to build a logical chain of routes and determine which one was safest and would bring them closest to their goal. Her mind was spinning with the numbers, lines, and patterns that connected the dots on the map, but she was also aware that sometimes Naruto's intuition could lead them to unexpected discoveries. Naruto seems confident in this choice, she thought. I trust her feelings, since they have never let me down. After much discussion, they decided to follow the path Naruko had indicated. Step by step, they went deeper into the forest, feeling the air become thicker and the sounds of the night louder. Each new sound made them wary, but they continued to move forward, supporting each other as best they could. As time passed, the forest gradually parted, revealing majestic mountains shrouded in a light mist. Naruko felt an unusual connection to this place. Her inner voice told her that they had almost arrived where they were destined to be. Her thoughts flowed smoothly, she felt ready to face whatever the future would bring. Sasuko, walking beside her, felt a similar determination. She analyzed every detail, trying to anticipate possible threats. Her thoughts turned to defensive techniques and ways to counter the forces that could lurk in these mountains. We must be on guard, she thought, any mistake could be fatal. But despite her fear and apprehension, her inner strength and faith in her alliance with Naruto gave her confidence that they would overcome all difficulties. As the first rays of dawn began to break through the mist and thick clouds, the girls reached a picturesque valley, surrounded by high cliffs and filled with the soft light of dawn. Naruko stopped and took a deep breath, feeling her heart fill with a mixture of trepidation and joy. We did it, she thought, we are closer to what we were looking for, and now we are on the threshold of new discoveries. Sasuko looked at Naruko, seeing the same feeling reflected in her eyes, courage and readiness for whatever the day would bring. Let us rest here for a while, she suggested, and gather our strength before we continue our journey. Their minds briefly connected in a joyful respite, a warm sense of accomplishment from the journey they had made, knowing that there were many more challenges ahead. They laid out their meager belongings and settled down on the bank of a small stream that cut through the valley with its flowing water. Naruko closed her eyes and allowed herself to feel each drop of cool water that washed over her hands, falling into a state of light meditation. Images of the first time she met the tailed beasts in her dreams floated through her mind, how her fears and doubts transformed into determination and the desire to act. She understood that the darkness they would face was not just an external enemy, but also a reflection of the fears within herself that she needed to overcome. Sasuko, sitting next to her, watched her friend, her thoughts full of concern. No matter how hard it is, we will definitely get through this, she assured herself. Naruko is stronger than she thinks, and our bond is our greatest shield and weapon. She quietly joined the meditation, allowing herself to fall into a state of peace, knowing that new challenges were coming soon, and they needed to be prepared in both body and spirit. The days spent in the valley were filled with training and preparation. Naruto and Sasuke explored the area, studying the energy currents they realized flowed through the land. They practiced chakra manipulation techniques, honed their combat skills, and deepened their bond with each other, knowing that their combined strength and trust would be their bulwark in the coming battle against the darkness. Naruto's inner thoughts increasingly turned to the visions that appeared during her meditations. She saw snippets of scenes where light and darkness clashed in a merciless battle, and she felt that her role in this struggle would be significant. I need to be prepared, she thought over and over. Everything I have learned so far, everything Sasuke and I have done together, is only preparation for the day when the time comes to face the darkness itself. With these thoughts, filled with anxiety and hope, Naruko looked at the rising sun, knowing that their path would not be easy, but believing in her strength and the strength of their union. Their journey was just beginning, and ahead of them were new trials, new victories, and, perhaps, the revelation of secrets that could change the world. Chapter 6, Tests of Friendship. Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha continued their journey through mysterious lands, delving into the shadows of the trials ahead and delving deeper into their own souls. Their path to facing the darkness became increasingly thorny, and with it, the internal doubts that arose along the way grew. The friendship that had formed between them during their shared adventures was tested, requiring both to be as open, trusting, and understanding as possible. One day, when the sun was high and the sky promised to be clear, the girls found themselves in a territory that radiated an atmosphere of tension. It was a small village, lost between the hills, inhabited by people who suffered from constant attacks by mysterious creatures that appeared from the forest. Rumors of dark forces engulfing this land reached the ears of Naruko and Sasuke, and they decided to help the inhabitants, although it meant a deviation from their main path. We need to be careful, Sasuke said, her voice cold and focused as they walked through the narrow streets of the village. We don't know what we'll face. These attacks could be related to the darkness we've heard about. Naruko nodded, her heart beating faster with excitement and the desire to help. She felt responsible not only for her own future, but for those who were suffering because of another's evil power. I must use my power and our knowledge to help them, she thought, her resolve firm. But how can I combine helping these people with our main task? Naruko's thoughts and emotions were mixed up as she looked back at Sasuke. Sasuke was as calm and confident as ever, but there was a hint of worry in her eyes that she tried to hide. The idea of how the trials of friendship would help them grow stronger was swirling around in her mind. We have to support each other even in times like these, she thought, watching Naruko's movements. This is not only a test for us, but also for our bond. One night, as they set up camp at the edge of the forest, Sasuke and Naruko sat by the fire, discussing strategies to defend the village. The shadows from the flames danced across their faces, reflecting worry and determination. Naruko looked into the fire and said quietly, Sasuke, do you think we can handle all these difficulties? I sometimes doubt myself, especially when I see so much suffering around me. Sasuke looked at her friend with sincere attention. Her thoughts were full of sympathy and understanding. Naruko, I know your fears. But remember that you have already been through a lot, and you are stronger than you think. I believe in you, and our friendship is what gives us strength. She mentally squeezed Naruko's hand tightly to convey confidence. We have come a long way together, and no obstacle can separate us. Naruko smiled, feeling a warm feeling of support. Her thoughts became clearer. Sasuke is my anchor in this storm. Without her, I couldn't have done it. She felt how their friendship became a real shield against all adversity. The next day, news of a new attack reached the village. Several villagers were injured, and shadows that had previously been mere rumors were becoming reality. Naruko and Sasuke decided to act immediately. They organized a defense with the locals, preparing for an attack. Their every move, every word was filled with tension, but also mutual support. Naruko stood guard with Sasuke, looking carefully into the dark forest on the outskirts of the village. Thoughts about the importance of staying calm and focused were running through her mind. If I panic, I'll only end up hurting both of us. Her feelings alternated between fear and fortitude, and she sought balance in this contradiction. Sasuke, standing nearby, mentally analyzed the situation. Naruko must know that I am always here, she thought, and that her strength is my strength. We are one in this matter. She observed Naruko's behavior, trying to catch the slightest changes in her mood, and prepared to come to her aid if the need arose. As night fell, shadows came to the village. They were ominous and indistinct as if created from the darkness itself. At first, the villagers hid in their houses, but Naruko and Sasuke stood guard, holding their weapons and feeling their hearts merging into a single rhythm of fighting spirit. In these trying moments, each of them kept in mind not only the battle, but also how important their support was to each other. Naruko, seeing Sasuke calmly staring into the darkness, felt confident. If I were alone, fear might take over. But with Sasuke by my side, we can do it together. Her thoughts were filled with gratitude for the strong bond that bound them. The battle was fierce. The shadows moved with incredible speed, attacking the village's defenses. Naruto and Sasuke, acting as one, parried blows and counterattacked, using their unique abilities and strategic skills. With each battle, with each move, they felt their trust in each other grow. At a critical moment, when one of the shadows attacked Naruko from the flank, Sasuke instantly reacted, rushing to her defense. I won't let you get hurt, she thought, concentrating on parrying the blow. Naruko, stunned by this sudden display of concern, felt the warmth and strength of Sasuke next to her. Her thoughts returned to the sincere feeling of affection. We are a team. Together, we are stronger than any shadow. As the battle began to die down and the shadows retreated, Naruko and Sasuke stood shoulder to shoulder, slightly out of breath from the effort. They exchanged glances filled with mutual respect and understanding. Their trials of friendship over the past few days had only confirmed that it was in difficult circumstances that their bond grew stronger, and their trust became unconditional. Later, when the villagers began to come to their senses and thank them for saving them, Naruko and Sasuke retreated into the shadows to discuss what had happened. In a quiet conversation under the starry sky, they shared their thoughts and experiences. Naruko, looking at the flickering lights of the village in the distance, said quietly, every time we're together, I feel like our friendship is invincible. But sometimes, I feel like fears and doubts still creep in. Sasuke lightly placed her hand on her friend's shoulder. It's natural to be afraid. But it's these moments that teach us to trust each other even more. We'll get through everything because we have the strength that comes from our friendship and mutual love. A picture of their journey together unfolded in her mind. All the trials they had gone through had made them stronger, wiser, and closer to each other. We are not just a union of two geniuses, we are a team inextricably linked by fate, Sasuke thought, feeling warmth and confidence fill her heart. Naruko took Sasuke's hand, and in that simple act, they felt a mutual promise of support and loyalty. Their thoughts and feelings merged together, strengthening their bond in the face of all future trials. And so, through battles and inner doubts, their friendship became the solid foundation on which everything else could be built, be it defeating the darkness or saving the world they were meant to serve. Chapter 7, United Forces. Having gone through many trials and strengthened their friendship, Naruko Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha found themselves on the threshold of a new chapter in their journey. Their path led them to unknown lands, where they had to unite not only their abilities, but also their hearts to face new threats. Despite all the difficulties, their union grew stronger, and they realized that they could only cope together, relying on their mutual support and faith in success. After the events in the village, saved from the shadow attacks, the girls continued to explore the ancient scrolls and the bonds that connected them with the tailed beasts. Each new day brought new knowledge and discoveries, and with them, new challenges. They understood that their path was inextricably linked with the most difficult battles, but they felt that together they were capable of anything. They decided that for the upcoming trials, they should join forces with those who also sought peace and justice. In the valley where they had taken refuge after fighting the shadows, Naruko and Sasuke had set up a small headquarters to gather those who were willing to help them fight the encroaching darkness. They had met students and masters from neighboring villages who had unique skills and a willingness to fight for a common cause. Naruko's inner thoughts were filled with gratitude that they were not alone in their quest for the light. "We are not alone," she mused. "Joining forces with others will give us a chance to resist the darkness that is coming." Sasuke felt a surge of confidence as she watched the ever larger group of allies form around them. Her analytical mind assessed the potential of each new ally, trying to figure out how their abilities could fit into the overall strategy. "If we can organize all these people into a single unit," she thought, "our combined force will be invincible." She felt a responsibility not only for her own leadership, but for everyone who sought support and believed in their cause. Inside the camp, surrounded by fires and rags of tents, there was an atmosphere of concentration and preparation. Every evening after battles and training, with the flames of the fire casting dancing shadows on the faces of tired but determined people, Naruko and Sasuke would gather with their closest comrades to discuss plans. Their thoughts were full of strategic calculations and tactical calculations. Naruko often thought about the upcoming ritual with the tailed beasts, which was supposed to help them cement their alliance against the darkness. She knew that this moment would be a turning point in their fight, and she felt the determination burning inside her to be 100% ready for it. Sasuke sat next to him, studying ancient texts, trying to find hints or directions for building a unified fighting tactic. Her thoughts were clear and methodical. "We need to find a way to combine various techniques and approaches into a single whole. Only then will we be able to effectively fight against multiple enemies." She treasured the moments when she could discuss strategy with Naruko, whose energy and intuition often steered them in the right direction. One evening, when the moon shone brightly over the camp, Naruko went for a short walk alone. Her thoughts were full of emotions, from excitement and fear to deep gratitude for the bond that united her with Sasuke. She stopped at the top of a hill, from where she could see the entire camp, dotted with firelight and the movement of people. "We are more than just the two of us," she thought. "We have become the center of a force that can change the world." Her heart was filled with determination and inspiration. She saw the union growing stronger, people uniting for a common goal, and she understood that together they could do much. Returning to Sasuke, Naruko told her friend about her thoughts and observations. Sasuke listened attentively, her eyes reflecting respect and admiration for Naruko's fortitude. "You are right," she said calmly. "Our friendship and our unification with others have already become a foundation upon which we can build our future actions. But we must be attentive to details and be prepared for the darkness to manifest itself at any moment." In the following days, both girls focused on preparing their allies for the coming battle. They trained, exchanged knowledge and techniques with the masters who came to their aid. Naruko felt her connection with the tailed beasts grow deeper and stronger, while Sasuke delved deeper into learning the strategies and tactics needed for a united resistance. Their thoughts often intersected. They imagined a future where light confronts darkness, and knew that their unity would be the key to victory. One of the most important parts of the preparation was the ritual of connecting the spirits with the tailed beasts. To do this, Naruko and Sasuke were invited to a sacred land of holy trees and ancient stones, where a special energy was felt. Surrounded by their allies, they began preparing for the ritual, feeling their intentions resonate with the surrounding nature. Naruko closed her eyes and focused on her thoughts, imagining a union with the spirits of the tailed beasts. Her mind was filled with images of majestic creatures. Their presence felt tangible and warm, supporting her. At this time, Sasuke, holding her friend's hand, felt their hearts beat in unison, and knew that together they were capable of great things. As the ritual began, their allies froze in anticipation of a miracle. Naruko and Sasuke chanted ancient incantations, calling upon the tailed beasts and asking for their help in the fight against the approaching darkness. Their thoughts were filled with faith and hope, we are one with you, and together we can bring light to this world." The feeling of unity and connection with higher powers filled them with energy and determination. As the ritual progressed, the light around them began to flicker and intensify. They saw the shadows surrounding the camp recede, and the energy of the tailed beasts entered their bodies, connecting them with the ancient powers. Naruko felt her strength reborn and growing, her thoughts merging with new knowledge and intuition. Sasuko felt her analytical mind being filled with the wisdom of her ancestors, and she gained clarity in her strategic calculations. The completion of the ritual marked the beginning of a new stage in their journey. They felt that they had become not just two girls, but part of something much larger, something that united many destinies and worlds. Their combined powers, based on friendship, love and faith, became an invincible shield against the darkness. Naruko and Sasuko exchanged glances filled with gratitude and determination. Their minds were already formulating plans for the future, how to use the powers and knowledge they had gained to protect their loved ones, to save the world from the impending threat. They knew that new challenges lay ahead, but now they were ready to face them with their allies and their combined forces. And as the sun rose above the horizon, illuminating the lands with new light, they felt that the power of unity that now pulsed through their veins would drive them forward, to victory and the peace they so sought to bring back. Chapter 8: Shadows of the Past. After performing the ritual to join forces with the tailed beasts, Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuko Uchiha felt an unusual sense of calm and confidence. However, despite the newfound strength and connection with their allies, their hearts and minds remained wary. The new knowledge and power gained during the ritual had opened the door to understanding the ancient mysteries that had been at the heart of their path. Now they would have to face the shadows of the past, uncover forgotten stories, and find answers to the questions that had troubled their souls for so long. After the ritual, the girls decided to visit an ancient library located on the edge of their combined camp. This library contained manuscripts, chronicles, and artifacts related to the history of the tailed beasts and the Jinchuriki themselves who wielded their power. In the quiet of the spacious hall, lit by the soft light of flickering lamps, Naruko ran her fingers along the spines of old books, feeling the cold layers of dust on her fingertips and the wisdom contained within these pages. Sasuko sat next to her, carefully studying the artifacts, and their thoughts intertwined in search of clues to unravel the mysteries of the past. Naruko opened one of the thick parchment books and began reading the ancient writings aloud. Her voice trembled with emotion and respect as she handed the ancient text to Sasuko. "It speaks of a great alliance between the first Jinchuriki and the tailed beasts," she whispered, lost in the meaning of the lines. "It is said that it was through this alliance that harmony between humans and spirits was achieved, but then events occurred that severed this bond." Sasuko listened intently, her mind deep in analysis. Why was this alliance broken? What events led to the break? She wondered, pulling logic from her brain and connecting the information she had found to her current circumstances. She treasured the moments when she could study such texts with Naruko, as their shared discoveries strengthened their bond and gave new direction to their journey. As she read, Naruko felt the shadows of the past begin to creep into her consciousness. Her inner images filled with images of ancient battles, great sages, and mystical rituals. "I feel that these pages hold the key to my destiny," she thought. "Understanding what happened before will help me better cope with the challenges of the present and future." Sasuko, noticing her friend's deep concentration, gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "We will get through this together," she said, feeling a surge of confidence in her voice. Her thoughts were full of determination. "Every new discovery, every symbol we read brings us closer to understanding our destiny. We must unravel the mysteries of the past to prevent them from happening again." One night, after a long day of studying ancient scrolls, Naruko awoke with a strange sensation. Her mind was clouded with memories that did not seem to be her own, but belonged to someone from the past. She saw images of people and creatures similar to those described in the books, the first Jinchuriki, her alliance with the tailed beasts, scenes of peaceful coexistence and sudden tragedy. These visions were so vivid that Naruko could discern the smallest details: decorations on clothes, facial expressions, landscapes filled with magic and energy. She quietly woke Sasuko, sharing the visions she had experienced. "Sasuko, I dreamed of scenes from the ancient past," she whispered, barely believing what she was saying to herself. "I saw the Jinchuriki and the tailed beasts, their union. But I also felt pain and separation. These images seem so real." Sasuko listened intently, her eyes widening as she felt the weight of these experiences. A question arose in her mind: could these visions be the key to understanding what is happening now? If we can uncover the true reason for the alliance's breakdown, perhaps we can prevent a catastrophe in the present. The two girls decided they needed to delve deeper into these visions and see what lessons they could learn from the past. They found a secluded spot in the library, surrounded by books and artifacts, where they could quietly discuss their experiences. Naruko described the visions in detail, describing every detail, every face that flashed through her mind. Her thoughts swirled around questions: how did these events relate to our current prophecy? What was the true reason for the alliance's dissolution? Sasuko, analyzing Naruko's story, began to put the pieces of information together into a logical chain. Her mind was working at top speed. If the events of the past had such an outcome, then perhaps we may face similar risks again. We need to learn how to avoid the mistakes that were made then. One night, while leafing through ancient scrolls, Sasuko came across a reference to a mysterious artifact that, according to legend, was able to restore lost connections and heal the rifts between worlds. Her thoughts froze for a moment. If this artifact exists, it could be the key to restoring balance. But where is it? Naruko felt a surge of hope upon hearing this. "We must find this artifact," she said, her voice filled with determination. "If it helps restore the alliance with the tailed beasts and understand the reasons behind the past, it will be a huge step forward." A plan formed in her mind: find manuscripts and clues that would lead to the artifact. Over the next few weeks, the girls organized an expedition with a few trusted allies from the joint camp. They explored abandoned temples, ruined palaces, and hidden shrines left over from ancient times. Each new location revealed fragments of history, captured in wall carvings, frescoes, and statues. Naruko and Sasuko became increasingly immersed in the atmosphere of antiquity, feeling the past come alive around them. One day, in one of these shrines, they discovered a secret room filled with artifacts and texts. Among the many objects they found, their attention was drawn to an elegant medallion decorated with a symbol that Naruko had already seen in her visions. When she touched the medallion, she felt the cold metal and a slight tremor, as if the artifact itself responded to her touch. Her thoughts again rushed to her visions. Could this be the very artifact that Sasuko spoke of? Sasuko stepped closer, examining the medallion carefully. "This symbol, it reminds me of ancient alliances," she said, studying the engravings. Images of the past connected to the symbol began to appear in her mind. If we can activate this relic, perhaps it will reveal new knowledge about events long gone. Naruko, holding the medallion in her hands, felt her connection to the tailed beasts and the ancient energies grow stronger. Her thoughts were filled with questions and expectations. What lies inside this medallion? How will it help us understand the shadows of the past? She turned to Sasuko, and her eyes showed not only curiosity, but also determination. Together they will find the answers. Sasuko carefully lifted the medallion, examining it from all sides. Her analytical mind tried to decipher the riddle of the relic. This artifact is the key to knowledge that has long been lost. But how do we activate it? She began searching for instructions in the surrounding texts, hoping to find a mention of how to use the medallion. The two girls spent many hours working to decipher the symbols and ancient instructions. Their thoughts often returned to visions and events of the past, trying to find parallels and clues. Every detail is important, Naruko thought. We must connect the dots between the knowledge we have gained to understand what we must do next. The process of exploring the medallion and gaining the wisdom of the past became not only an intellectual challenge, but also a spiritual journey. They felt the secrets left by their ancestors gradually unfold, and how this knowledge helped them become stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the events to come. Their relationship deepened as they shared discoveries, doubts, and hopes, becoming true companions not only in battle, but also in the search for truth. Over time, Naruko and Sasuke learned that the medallion was indeed the key to restoring the lost alliance between humans and the tailed beasts. It held the energy of ancient rituals and the ability to reveal hidden knowledge to those worthy of understanding it. After deciphering the necessary instructions, the girls activated the artifact, and a portal to a long-forgotten world of memories opened before them, a world where the shadows of the past came to life, offering them wisdom and warnings. At that moment, a series of scenes filled their minds, images of the ancient Jinchuriki, their encounters with the tailed beasts, great victories, and tragic losses. These visions became lessons for Naruko and Sasuke, helping them understand how to make decisions in the present by drawing on the wisdom of the past. They saw that even great allies had faced trials similar to the one they were about to face, and they knew that the lessons of the past would help them avoid making mistakes. Thus, delving into the details of their heritage, Naruko and Sasuke found answers to many questions. The medallion became for them a symbol not only of their connection with ancient powers, but also a reminder that understanding the past is the key to a bright future. Their thoughts were filled with confidence and determination, and their souls found peace, knowing that a bright path awaited them, illuminated by the wisdom of the ages. Chapter 9, Bijuu's Heart. After delving into the mysteries of the medallion and gaining the wisdom of the past, Naruko Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha felt their connection with the tailed beasts grow deeper and stronger. Standing on the border between the past and the present, they understood that the key to their future lay in the very heart of these powerful creatures. Now their path lay in understanding the nature of the tailed beasts and establishing true harmony between them and humanity. In the early hours of the next day, as the first light of dawn softly broke through the thick clouds, Naruko and Sasuke gathered to discuss their next steps. They knew that their communication with the tailed beasts would be a vital part of their mission. We must understand their hearts, Naruko mused, only then can we establish a true alliance. Her thoughts wandered to the images of the beasts that appeared in her dreams, and she felt that these images were not mere symbols, but living beings with their own minds and feelings. Sasuke, who had studied the ancient texts carefully, found references to the fact that the true bond between a Jinchuriki and a tailed beast does not begin with power or control, but with mutual understanding and genuine empathy. Her thoughts here were filled with logical chains. If we can establish emotional contact with each of the tailed beasts, we can set them up to protect, not destroy. She shared this conclusion with Naruko, hoping that their combined efforts would lead to a deep understanding. They decided to begin their journey to the heart of the Bijuu with prayer and meditation at a place where the presence of the tailed beasts was said to be especially strong. It was a sacred clearing, surrounded by ancient trees that seemed to hold the memories of many generations. When they arrived at the clearing, the cool morning dew covered the ground and a gentle breeze whispered ancient stories through the leaves. Naruko sat in the center of the clearing, closed her eyes, and began to meditate, feeling her breathing become even and her mind open to communication. She felt a slight pulsation in the air, a sense of the presence of something powerful and ancient. Images of 8 beasts appeared in her mind, each radiating its own energy and wisdom. "They are here," she whispered softly in her mind, "I can feel their souls." Her heart filled with awe and trepidation. Sasuke, sitting next to her, also closed her eyes, trying to tune into the same wave of energy. Her analytical mind tried to catch the structured signals coming from nature and animals, but gradually she allowed herself to dissolve in the general flow of sensations. "We must listen not only with our minds, but also with our hearts," she thought, feeling an invisible bridge begin to form between her and the tailed beasts. As she meditated, Naruko felt one of the energies reaching out to her. Her mind filled with images of a glowing figure that could be some kind of embodiment of one of the tailed beasts. "This is a sign of trust," she thought. "I am being chosen to help me." Her thoughts were filled with emotions, joy at being accepted, and responsibility for what she had to do. At the same time, Sasuke began to feel strange sensations in her chest, as if someone was quietly whispering in her ear, sharing bits of ancient wisdom. Her analytical mind tried to decipher this whisper, but realized that it was intuition and feelings that needed to be listened to. She felt the flow of energy through her, and realized that this was what was strengthening her, making her a part of something greater. A connection has been made, she thought, we are beginning to understand their heart. As the meditation came to an end, Naruko and Sasuko opened their eyes. The field around them seemed different, filled with a gentle light and calm energy. They exchanged glances that showed deep understanding and gratitude for the experience. Naruko spoke first. I feel accepted by the tailed beasts. Their energy beats in unison with my heart. We are close to establishing a true alliance. Sasuko nodded, her eyes shining with excitement and concentration. Our hearts are set on them, she said. Now we can move on to the next stage, learning more about their nature and learning to understand each other. They decided that the next step would be a journey to the sacred places where the tailed beasts lived. According to ancient texts, in these places one could establish personal contact with each of the beasts, learn their history, desires, and fears. Their thoughts were full of expectation. Every creature has a heart, and if we can hear it, we can find a common language. The journey to the tailed beast's home was not easy, but their combined strength and connection to nature helped them overcome the difficulties. They walked through dense forests, crossed fast-flowing rivers, and climbed mountain passes where the air became cooler and the energy thicker. During these treks, Naruko and Sasuko discussed their experiences and shared their thoughts on how to best interact with the tailed beasts, how to show respect and understanding. One evening, as they camped at the foot of an ancient, mist-shrouded mountain, Naruko felt her connection to one of the tailed beasts grow especially strong. Her mind filled with images from her meditation once more, and she knew that a meeting was coming. I sense a great being approaching, she said quietly to Sasuko, its heart calling to me. Sasuko, always rational, watched her friend with a little excitement. She thought, Naruko has gained something incredible. But how will this change our path? How can we use this connection to bring peace? Her mind was full of questions, but she trusted her friend's intuition. The next day, after a short rest, they continued on their way. Soon the forest began to part, revealing a majestic clearing surrounded by tall, ancient trees. In the middle of the clearing stood a huge creature with 8 tails, its eyes full of wisdom and calm. It was one of the tailed beasts, with whom Naruko had already had an emotional connection in meditation. The creature slowly turned towards her, and an invisible but tangible communication arose between them. Naruko felt her heart fill with light and trust. She slowly approached the tailed beast, extending her hand in friendship. The creature gently touched her palm, and a wave of energy passed through both of their beings. Images of peace and harmony that she had long sought flashed through her thoughts. This is true understanding, she thought, the Bijuu's heart has opened for me. Sasuko, watching this moment, felt a deep inner transformation. Her analytical mind realized that they were on the threshold of a new era, an era where humans and tailed beasts could coexist in harmony. She came closer to witness this event, and her thoughts echoed with support and determination. I will help Naruto and support this alliance with all my might. Thus began their dialogue with the tailed beasts. Through nonverbal cues, intuitive understanding, and deep respect, Naruko and Sasuko gradually learned to decipher the desires and needs of the powerful beings. They learned the stories of each tailed beast, felt their pain and joy, and shared their own determination to act for the sake of peace. Their hearts were filled with new wisdom, which they would use to complete their great destiny, to bring harmony and justice to the world, uniting humans and tailed beasts in a single quest for a brighter future. Chapter 10, Betrayal in the Shadow. After deeply connecting with the tailed beasts and gaining new wisdom, Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha felt their alliance with the powerful beings grow stronger with each passing day. They continued their journeys, learning from the tailed beasts, gathering knowledge and advice to prepare for their final trials. But even in such moments of devotion and unity, shadows of the past and unacknowledged threats can creep in unnoticed. Their united camp, where many allies and masters had gathered, was filled with a lively atmosphere as they prepared for the upcoming battle against the darkness. Naruto and Sasuke were heading to the Council of Elders and Masters to discuss new strategies after their recent encounter with the tailed beasts. The faces of the people were filled with determination and anxiety, as everyone understood that the coming days would bring new challenges. Among those gathered, there was one man whose aura was slightly different from the rest. He seemed calm, his eyes hid something elusive, and even experienced masters noticed his aloofness. His name was Kagumo, a mysterious strategist who had joined the alliance at the very beginning of their journey. He repeatedly proposed brilliant solutions, however, sometimes a shadow of incomprehensible motivation could be heard in his remarks. That evening, after the meeting, Naruko and Sasuko lingered near Kagumo to discuss their suspicions. Naruko, looking thoughtfully into the flickering fire, said quietly, "Do you sense something strange in his behavior? His decisions are too calculated, as if he knows more than he is letting on." Images of dark alliances and betrayals that could jeopardize their mission flashed through her mind. Sasuko nodded, her gaze focused and serious. "I also felt that his motivations were ambiguous. I analyzed his actions and speeches, and found several contradictory points. He often mentions old alliances that may no longer exist, and his strategic advice sometimes seems too risky," she said, choosing her words carefully. Her thoughts were filled with logical reasoning about possible traps and shady plans. Over the following days, the girls began to watch Kagumo more closely. They exchanged suspicions and gathered information, carefully checking his every move. Naruko mused, "If he really is betraying us, then when and how does he plan to strike? We need to understand his motives before we take action." Sasuko simultaneously tried to decipher the hints Kagumo might be leaving in his conversations. Piecing together bits of information to piece together the full picture. Late one night, when the camp was asleep, Naruko heard a quiet conversation behind an old equipment warehouse. She cautiously approached and overheard Kagumo speaking quietly to a stranger over a secret channel. "They are getting closer to discovering the truth," he said, "but I am confident that I can distract them when the time comes. Our plans are on schedule." The words made Naruko's heart speed up. She immediately called out to Sasuko, and together they realized that they had witnessed a betrayal. A plan was forming inside their minds, how to expose Kagumo and prevent a catastrophe. They understood that it was too dangerous to act directly now. The traitor could be surrounded by allies and have supporters. "We need to gather enough evidence of his betrayal," Sasuko mentally confirmed, "and then act when he is alone." Over the next few days, Naruko and Sasuko played a double game. On the one hand, they continued to cooperate with their allies, and on the other, they secretly collected evidence against Kagumo. They carefully analyzed his interactions with other people, his movements, and his conversations. Their internal dialogues were filled with tension and caution. "If we can catch him in the act or with key information, then he will be exposed in front of everyone," Naruko thought, feeling the weight of responsibility for a possible betrayal. Sasuko, meanwhile, had developed tactics to neutralize the traitor if it came to confrontation. Her thoughts were methodical. "When the moment comes, it is important to act quickly and accurately, using all our combined forces and tactical knowledge." She paid attention to every detail that could help them at the decisive moment. Finally, one evening, during one of her nightly checks, Sasuko found Kagumo in a secluded area, secretly transmitting information to someone on the other side of the camp. She quietly approached, hiding in the shadows. Naruko, sensing a suspicious movement, confirmed her suspicions. They exchanged brief glances, and Sasuko gave the signal without further ado. It was time to act. Suddenly, but silently, Naruko and Sasuko surrounded Kagumo. His eyes widened in surprise at their sudden appearance, realizing he was trapped. "I thought you would never suspect me," he whispered, the bitterness evident in his voice, his words echoing with worry and confusion. But the girls already knew, their allies' support and the evidence they had gathered were undeniable. Naruko looked at Kagumo with a sense of betrayal gripping her heart. "Why you? We trusted you," she said quietly, but with strength in her voice. Images of the trust and friendship that had once bound them flashed through her mind, and now the betrayal seemed especially bitter. Sasuko, keeping her cool, presented all the evidence of betrayal that they had gathered. She listed the facts clearly, and several allies gathered around to confirm the suspicions. Kagumo realized that his plans had been exposed. His inner thoughts swung between regret and pride in his own cunning, but now the betrayal was exposed, and it could no longer be hidden. Having discovered the betrayal, Naruko and Sasuke knew that this turn of events had once again reminded them of how thin the line between trust and betrayal was. The situation had taught them an important lesson: even among allies, there could be those whose motives were shrouded in darkness. Their combined strength and deep connection had helped them overcome this crisis, and they were now even more careful and considerate of those they trusted. With Kagumo now betrayed by most, the web of treachery he had woven began to unravel. Naruko and Sasuke restored calm to the camp, discussing measures to increase security and strengthen the bonds of trust with their allies. Their thoughts returned to the alliance they had already established with the tailed beasts and the battle against the darkness that lay ahead. Now free of the poisonous influence, they could focus on their main goal: to bring peace and harmony by uniting the hearts of humans and tailed beasts, knowing that their true alliance would stand firm even in the face of betrayal. Chapter 11: The Hero's Journey. With Kagumo's betrayal exposed, Naruko Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha felt relief mixed with renewed determination. Their bond with their allies had grown stronger, and the lessons learned along the way had strengthened their caution and wisdom. Now they were ready for the next stage, preparing for the final battle for the future of the ninja world and for maintaining harmony between humans and the tailed beasts. The morning arrived quietly and thoughtfully. Everyone in the camp was busy recovering from the intense events. Naruko and Sasuke were conducting their morning training with a group of senior warriors and mentors. Every blow, every movement reflected not only physical training, but also the inner strength they had gained through their trials. Naruko felt her energy flowing freely and harmoniously, and her thoughts were focused on the battle ahead. She thought, "My path is not over, but every step brings me closer to becoming a hero who needs peace." Her inner sense of responsibility was mixed with determination. Sasuke, watching the training, analyzed every action of Naruko and her comrades. Her analytical mind searched for the best tactics that would help in the upcoming fight against the darkness. She felt how their interaction with their allies was becoming more and more coordinated. "We must combine our strength and knowledge," she thought, "to face the coming challenges. Our team is what will give us the advantage." Her thoughts were filled with strategic plans and tasks that needed to be completed before the fighting began. After training, the girls went to the elders of the camp for advice and blessings. In the sacred tent, lit by the soft light of lanterns, the elders gathered them around them. The voices of the mentors sounded calm and confident. They conveyed wise instructions and blessings. Naruko listened carefully to every word, her thoughts full of gratitude for the support. She understood, this path requires courage and purity of heart. With the help of the tailed beasts and our allies, we can overcome any difficulties. Sasuke was thinking about the importance of maintaining a balance between strategic calculation and heartfelt sincerity. Her gaze swept over the faces of the elders, and she felt the support of the centuries, conveyed through words and vows. Their wisdom is our beacon in dark times, she thought, strengthening her resolve to act with justice and precision. The next day, preparations for the campaign began. The allies assigned roles and tasks, developed plans for various scenarios. Naruko and Sasuke, along with a group of the best fighters and magicians, studied the map of the upcoming battle, discussed strategic points and possible ways to encircle the enemy. Each discussion, each new decision, strengthened their confidence that they were on the right path. Naruko often wondered about her place in this process. Her thoughts returned to images from her childhood, to the moments when she first realized that her path was special. "I must be a hero not for the glory, but to protect those I love and for the sake of peace," she convinced herself. With each passing day, her confidence in herself and her allies grew. She felt new abilities awakening within her, strengthening her bond with the tailed beasts. Sasuke, for her part, had studied ancient texts and strategies in depth to ensure their path was safe. Her thoughts were clear and methodical. "We are on the brink of a great battle. It is important to remember every lesson the path has taught us and apply them wisely." She also tried to provide emotional support to Naruko, reminding her of how far they had come and the obstacles they had overcome. That evening, when the entire camp was silently awaiting the upcoming events, Naruko and Sasuko sat on the top of a hill, looking up at the starry sky. There was no need for words between them, their friendship and understanding spoke for themselves. Naruko looked at the twinkling stars, feeling her heart overflow with hope and readiness for battle. We are together, she thought, and that is our strength. Sasuko joined her, quietly placing a hand on her friend's shoulder. Her thoughts were full of determination and calm. Our bond, our friendship, and our faith are what will help us get through any darkness. They both knew that the hero's path was not an easy one, and that there were severe trials ahead, but in this unknown future, they were no longer alone. Their alliance with the tailed beasts, the support of their allies, and their strong friendship gave them the strength they needed to face any challenge that might come their way. Thus they ended their evening, preparing for the day to come when their fate and the fate of the world would intersect in a decisive confrontation with the evil that threatened to destroy all they had built. Their thoughts were filled with confidence that the hero's path they had trodden thus far had led them to this momentous moment, and they were prepared to meet it with courage, wisdom, and heartfelt sincerity. Chapter 12, Battle for Konoha. As the first rays of the sun began to shine on the borders of the united camp, the decisive day had arrived. Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha, surrounded by their trusted allies, stood on the threshold of a great battle that would determine the future of their world. Their hearts beat in unison with the pulsing energy emanating from the tailed beasts, with whom they had achieved the fusion over the course of a long journey. This battle was the culmination of everything they had strived for, to protect Konoha, their friends, and the future, to unite people and tailed beasts in the fight against the approaching darkness. The camp was in a flurry of preparation. Volunteers donned battle armor, mages and nuns performed the last rites, warriors honed their skills, and strategists, including Sasuko, laid out final plans and attack routes. Everyone present knew that today was their decisive day. But for Naruko and Sasuko, they would lead this army of light and wisdom, drawing on the experiences they had gained throughout their journey. Naruko stood on a high hill overlooking the surrounding area, her eyes shining with determination as she watched the troops arrayed below. She felt her connection to the tailed beasts fill her with inner strength, the energy of 8 powerful creatures flowing through her chakra, allowing her to sense every move of her enemies and the support of her allies. She took a deep breath, trying to capture the last pulse of calm before the storm. We are ready, she whispered into the quiet silence, our path has brought us here, and we will not retreat. Meanwhile, Sasuko, in the middle of the headquarters, coordinated the distribution of forces and set up tactical positions. Her analytical mind was working at full capacity, processing data on the enemy, anticipating their movements, and collecting the latest information. Her eyes sparkled with concentration and determination. Everything is going according to plan, she mentally confirmed, but we must be prepared for unforeseen circumstances. She knew that every enemy had a weakness, and her job was to find it at the moment of need, relying on observation and experience. As the battle approached, Naruko and Sasuke met in the center of the headquarters. They embraced for a moment, feeling each other's support and the strength of their friendship that saved them from despair and fear. We did everything we could, Naruko said, her voice calm but filled with energy. Now it's our turn to act. Sasuke nodded, her face focused and determined. Together, we are stronger, she replied, and in those words was a promise, both support and strength. Soon the signal to begin the operation sounded. A crowd of warriors, mages, and sages advanced from the fields of the camp, carrying the banners of Konoha and the symbols of the alliance with the tailed beasts. Naruto and Sasuke led the columns, their figures visible from afar, like beacons of light in the pre-dawn darkness. They felt how with each step their connection and unity with their allies grew stronger, how an invisible energy passed through each participant in this sacred mission. As they approached the borders of Konoha, the enemy-ridden forces of darkness met them in a silent assault. Before them stretched an armada of shadow warriors. Twisted beings made of pure darkness. These creatures were the embodiment of evil and chaos, their eyes flickering with an ominous fire, and the air around them thickened with evil energy. But the light emanating from Naruto and her allies cut through this darkness, like a ray of light through darkness. The battle began suddenly and fiercely. Naruko, surrounded by a halo of powerful tailed beast energy, rushed into the thick of the battle. Her movements were fast and precise. She used the power of all 8 tailed beasts to repel the attacks of her enemies and send out powerful counterattacks. Each of her blows was filled with energy, each of her steps with confidence in herself and her destiny. She felt the magic pulsing through her veins, and her thoughts were focused on protecting her friends and her home village. Sasuko, along with Naruko, led squads of strategically important targets, managing the battlefield, giving instructions, and offering tactical solutions in a dynamically changing situation. Her analytical mind worked at its limit. She predicted the enemy's maneuvers, coordinated the actions of allies, and used every chance to gain an advantage. In her hands were scrolls and amulets that allowed her to control the flow of chakra and create protective barriers that deflected attacks of darkness. In the heart of the battle, an incredible union of spirit and strength took place around Naruko and Sasuko. They exchanged glances through the roar of battle, supporting each other not with words, but with actions and intuition. Once, when a wave of enemies attacked from the flanks, Naruko saw how Sasuko was already steadfastly blocking blow after blow. Her movements were flawless. At that moment, her friend felt how their souls merged into one, and this gave her incredible resilience. The enemy was strong and numerous, but the power of unity and light emanating from Naruko and Sasuko gradually began to prevail. The allies acted as one, each guarding the other, supporting a common strategy. Mages bound by rituals and alliances with the tailed beasts poured out streams of light, dispelling the darkness and creating shields around their comrades. During one of these powerful magical attacks, Naruko felt her consciousness fill with harmony with the tailed beasts. Her thoughts concentrated on directing all this power against the enemy's key targets, breaking through their defenses and opening the way for a decisive strike. Sasuko, using her tactical talent, noticed the main source of darkness emerging from the enemy lines, a being that surpassed all other enemies in strength. Her analytical mind registered its movements and assessed its weak points. "This is the center of their power," she said mentally. "If we can neutralize it, the rest of the army will disperse." She quickly conveyed this information to Naruko, gesturing with her hand and pointing in the direction. Naruko realized that this was her defining moment. Gathering all her will and energy, she extended her hands towards the creature, calling upon the power of the tailed beasts. A bright light flashed in her eyes, and the aura of the 8 tails began to play around her. She felt the energy of the ancient beasts flow into her body, combining with her power. "The time has come," she whispered to herself, "I will do this, for all of us." A moment later, amidst the raging battle and the noise of the battle, Naruko broke through the enemy lines, her movements becoming faster and more precise. She managed to break through the dense shield of dark warriors, surrounding the main enemy. His eyes widened in surprise when he saw a shining figure in front of him, surrounded by the power of the 8 tails. At that moment, all the allied forces coordinated their attack. Magical arrows of light, battle cries, and sword strikes rained down on the heart of darkness. The battle reached its climax. Naruto and Sasuko, acting in unison, managed to deliver the decisive blow that put an end to the reign of darkness on the battlefield. An explosion of energy lit up the sky, and the enormous creature, the source of evil, crumbled into thousands of particles, dissolving into thin air. This moment was the culmination of their efforts, alliances, and faith in the light they had sought for so long. As the dust of battle began to clear, silence fell over the field. The allies, elated by their victory, gathered around Naruko and Sasuko, feeling that they had witnessed something extraordinary today. People exchanged glances full of gratitude, and the tailed beasts, present in the form of energy forms, quietly protected their allies like ancient guardians of the world. Naruko, exhausted and worried, knelt down next to her friend. A feeling of deep gratitude and satisfaction reigned in her soul. "We did it. Our unity defeated the darkness." Sasuko, supporting Naruko, smiled softly, her thoughts full of calm and confidence in the future. They knew that there would be a time of peace ahead, which they helped restore. But they also understood that their journey was not over. They would have to use the knowledge and wisdom they had gained to build a new society based on harmony between humans and the tailed beasts. Their battle for Konoha was not only a victory over the enemy, but also the beginning of a new era in which light, friendship, and understanding became the foundation of the future. Chapter 13, Rebirth. After the decisive battle for Konoha, filled with light, courage, and united strength, the time for peace and reconstruction had come. Victory brought not only triumph, but also great responsibility. Now came a period of rebirth, when it was necessary to restore the devastated lands, deepen the alliance with the tailed beasts, and lay the foundations of a new future. Waking at dawn, surrounded by her trusted friends and allies, Naruko Uzumaki felt the fresh air of the morning, filled with hope. She rose slowly, tired from the grueling battle, but with a new beginning burning within her. Beside her, Sasuko Uchiha sat in a meditative pose, looking out the window at the rising sun. Their eyes met, and they exchanged a quiet agreement. Their mission of victory was complete, but now they had to build peace. The camp was filled with a lively atmosphere of rebirth. The allies, inspired by the victory, joined forces to rebuild the destroyed buildings and organize aid for the victims. Despite their fatigue, Naruko and Sasuko actively participated in the process, each of them finding their role in this difficult task. Their thoughts were full of determination to do everything possible for a new beginning. Naruko, while checking the fortifications and addressing the restoration workers, often thought about how important it was to preserve the peace they had fought for. "We have defeated the darkness, but now it is our job to prevent the darkness from reawakening in the hearts of people," she thought. Images of destroyed cities and injured people flickered through her mind, and she wanted to return them to normal life. She felt a responsibility to ensure that the lessons of the past became a solid foundation for the future. Sasuko, meanwhile, focused her attention on strategic planning for reconstruction. Her analytical mind processed vast amounts of data, resources, population, the need to train new ninja, and to promote peace. She often wrote notes and created diagrams on how to establish cooperation between clans, strengthen defenses, and establish contacts with allies. A picture of a future where humans and tailed beasts lived in harmony, and knowledge and wisdom were passed down from generation to generation, was clearly visible in her mind. One of the priorities of the revival was to rebuild Konoha's infrastructure. The village's walls had been damaged by the battle, and some buildings had burned down, but the community spirit remained unconquered. Naruto, along with a group of repairmen and builders, visited every crack, every collapsed building, inspiring people to work hard and help each other. Her optimism and energy became infectious. People saw her as a symbol of hope and leadership. One such morning, Sasuko approached Naruko while she was discussing the restoration of the weapon workshops with the local blacksmiths. "Naruko," Sasuko said calmly, "I have finished working on a plan for long-term cooperation with the clans. We must not only recreate the past, but also build something new based on our values and experience." Her voice was confident and strategic. Naruko smiled, feeling her friend's support. "You are right, Sasuko. We must use this moment to lay the foundation for a future without conflict. Our victories must turn into peace and prosperity." Days turned into weeks, and the restoration was in full swing. The mages and sages who had contacted the tailed beasts not only helped strengthen the protective barriers, but also treated wounds, healed souls, and passed on knowledge. A sense of sacred duty reigned within them. Their powers were directed towards preserving the world and spreading wisdom. Naruko increasingly participated in meditations with the tailed beasts, deepening her spiritual connection and receiving advice from them on how to manage the world and harmonize relations between people and spirits. Her thoughts were full of humility and gratitude. "I feel the wisdom of the tailed beasts filling me. Their lessons will become a guide for the future." Sasuko delved into the study of peace and diplomacy. Her analytical mind began to focus on building a new education system for young ninja, where training was not limited to battle, but included the study of history, the world, and interaction with nature. She saw that the key to long-term peace lay in the proper upbringing of the new generation. "We must teach them not only ninja techniques, but also how to live in harmony, respecting each other and nature, she mused as she looked over the designs for new academies and training halls. A monument was erected in the center of Konoha to honor the fallen warriors and those who sacrificed their lives for the sake of peace. Naruto and Sasuke, along with other leaders of the village, participated in the opening ceremony. The monument was engraved with the names of the heroes and the symbols of the alliance with the tailed beasts, reminding future generations of the importance of peace and unity. The atmosphere of the event was touching and solemn. People laughed, cried, hugged, feeling that together they defeated the darkness. At this point, Naruko went to her room to find a moment of peace. She looked closely at the portraits of her loved ones, her ancestors, and the photos of her friends and allies. Her thoughts were spinning. We have been through so much. But the most precious thing is the light that we lit together, overcoming the darkness. She felt a deep connection with everyone who supported her along the way, from her parents who always believed in her, to her friends and allies who walked beside her. Her heart was filled with gratitude for the light that they created together. Sasuko came into the same room quietly, having read the last entries in her diary. She said, "We have shown that even after the darkest night, there is a dawn." Her voice was confident, but there was a softness in her eyes. They both knew that the path of rebirth was never ending. There would always be new challenges, new lessons, but now they had a foundation on which to build the future. Over time, peaceful life gradually returned to Konoha. Children played in the streets again. Training at the ninja academy became not only harsh battles, but also the art of harmonious coexistence with nature and understanding all its sides. Naruto and Sasuke became role models. Their wisdom, strength, and compassion became the pillars of a new era. The days passed in labor and joy, meetings, and discoveries. Together with their allies, they discussed new projects, from the restoration of the temple dedicated to the tailed ones, to the creation of educational programs that included lessons in diplomacy, philosophy, and spiritual unity. These were not just plans, these were steps towards a world in which light and friendship could withstand any threats. One of the most important events was the opening of the Peace Academy, where young ninja and sages trained, teaching not martial arts, but the ways of harmony and cooperation. Sasuko personally took part in the development of the curriculum, sharing her experience and knowledge. Naruko often conducted meditations with students, telling them about her path, the meaning of friendship and faith in the light. She saw how her words inspired young people, how they began to understand that a true hero is one who serves and protects the world. And so, years after the Great Battle, Konoha became a symbol of rebirth and unity. Naruto and Sasuke continued to work tirelessly, reminding themselves and others that the path of a hero is not only a battle with enemies, but also a continuous striving for peace, for harmony with oneself, with nature and with others. Their thoughts, experience, and wisdom were passed down from generation to generation, becoming a living legacy of light, capable of resisting any darkness. Thus, the revival became not just a restoration of what was destroyed, but the beginning of a new era in which people and the tailed beasts, united by friendship, faith, and hope, together built a peaceful future, respecting the lessons of the past and boldly stepping towards the light. Chapter 14, New Beginnings. After a period of restoration and rebirth of Konoha, there came a time when the passing calm was replaced by the need to look to the future. Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha, along with new generations of ninja and sages, entered a new era, an era of new beginnings, new challenges and opportunities. Their path, filled with experiences, victories, and lessons from the past, formed a solid foundation for future achievements. Now that peacetime had brought relative calm, the heroines focused on developing and training the younger generation. At the Peace Academy, founded on the achievements of the battle, they became mentors to those who sought not only martial prowess, but also an understanding of harmony, culture, and wisdom. Their teaching methods were characterized by deep emotional involvement and practical preparation for life in a world where knowledge and empathy were valued as much as physical strength. Naruko often taught meditation and spiritual development classes. She believed that true power lies in the ability to understand and feel the world around us. In her classes, students learned to free their minds from fear and doubt, to find harmony with nature and themselves. Every morning I greet the sunrise with gratitude, she told her students, and I feel the sunlight filling me with new energy. It is important to learn to find the light even in dark times, because it is the light that leads us forward. Sasuko, on the other hand, focused on a systematic approach to studying strategy, tactics, and the world around us. She believed that knowledge of history, nature, and culture provided insight into the present and helped us anticipate the future. Her lessons included studying ancient manuscripts, building structures, technology, and diplomatic tactics. We must remember, she often said, that power comes to those who know how to use knowledge, not just muscle. Only the combination of mind and heart can create a lasting peace. Their students saw them not just as mentors, but as living examples of how sincerity and wisdom go hand in hand with determination and fortitude. Naruko and Sasuke spent a lot of time together, discussing not only tactics and philosophy, but also sharing personal stories, joys, and sorrows. They understood that their path was no longer limited to battle, but aimed at passing on the knowledge and experience they had acquired to new generations. On a sunny day, when spring flowers were beginning to bloom along the paths of the Peace Academy, Naruko and Sasuke held a gathering of graduates and new students. In the central square, decorated with flags and symbols of peace, they held a ceremony to celebrate the end of an important training. People laughed, hugged, shared their dreams and plans, and the atmosphere was filled with light and hope. In their speeches, Naruko and Sasuke emphasized the importance of unity, mutual aid, and the constant pursuit of knowledge. Naruko recalled how they had risen from ninja novices to leaders through friendship and faith in a brighter future. "We have faced many challenges," she said, "and each victory was achieved through mutual support and unity. Now it is your turn to carry this torch. To spread wisdom and light where they are needed." Sasuke added an emphasis on personal development and responsibility for one's actions. "Each of you is the architect of your own future," she said, "but remember that your success is tied to the success of those around you. Learn to listen, understand, and help each other. Only then can we build a world worthy of our hopes." After the ceremony, life at the Peace Academy returned to the dynamic rhythm of learning and self-development. New projects were already beginning to take shape: the reconstruction of ancient shrines, the creation of new libraries of knowledge, the development of trade routes and diplomatic ties with other lands. Naruko often met with the leaders of neighboring villages, discussing issues of security, cooperation, and cultural exchange. Her positive attitude and infectious energy inspired many to new achievements. Sasuke, in turn, worked to expand educational programs, introducing modern teaching methods and research initiatives. She organized expeditions to study forgotten archaeological sites in order not only to preserve but also to enrich knowledge of the past. Her analytical mind and attention to detail helped to reveal new secrets of history and nature, which were important for forming a holistic picture of the world. As time went on, the world around them became more and more harmonious. Although challenges and problems did not disappear completely, people began to find solutions to them more quickly, relying on the wisdom gained from past experiences and the cooperation built during the years of battles and rebirth. Naruko and Sasuke were pleased with the results of their work, but they understood that their mission was never over. They continued to learn, develop, and share knowledge, reminding everyone that the path to a brighter future is a continuous pursuit of improvement, understanding, and unity. One evening, as they sat together on the roof of the Peace Academy, watching the blazing sunset, Naruko said quietly, "Look how far we've come. Our efforts have borne fruit, and the world around us is blossoming." Sasuke nodded, her gaze calm and peaceful. "But don't forget," she added, "that every new beginning brings new challenges. We will be there to help and guide those who come after us." Indeed, new generations were already preparing to continue the work of Naruko and Sasuke, inspired by the example of two great heroines. Their stories became legends that were told around campfires and in the warm light of fireplaces, reminding everyone that light always conquers darkness, and that true strength lies in friendship, unity, and faith in a better future. Chapter 15: Hearts in Harmony. It was a clear evening after a long period of rebirth and new beginnings. All was quiet and calm, The colorful lights of the evening lanterns softly illuminated the streets of the restored Konoha, and a light breeze rustled the leaves of the ancient trees, as if humming a melody of peace. In the center of the village, near a large garden of trees and blooming gardens, friends, comrades, and residents gathered to celebrate the end of a long journey and the triumph of harmony. In this calm and peaceful environment, Naruko Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha decided to spend their last evening together. Although their lives were filled with great events, at this moment it seemed that nothing was more important than their closeness and care for each other. They went out onto a quiet alley decorated with shining lanterns, where the soft rustle of sakura added to the romantic atmosphere. Naruko looked around, her heart filling with gratitude for all the trials and joys that had brought them to this moment. Her eyes sparkled in the lantern light as she turned to Sasuke. "We've been through a lot," she said softly, "and it's all led us here, to this quiet moment of harmony and understanding." Her voice was warm and sincere. Sasuke, who rarely showed her emotions openly, allowed herself to relax and smile that evening. She took Naruko's hand, feeling their fingers intertwined in a single pattern. "You were always there for me," she replied, quietly looking at her friend. "Together, we found not only strength, but also what is truly valuable, understanding and love. I am grateful for every moment spent with you." Under the starry sky, they continued their walk along the quiet streets, recalling their adventures and discussing the future. Their conversations flowed smoothly, filled with joyful memories and dreams. A casual intimacy arose between them, in which they exchanged gentle touches and glances filled with deep feeling. The depth of their mutual understanding and sympathy for each other became obvious to everyone around them, but it was this sincerity that made their connection special and unique. It was during one of these moments, with the soft glow of lanterns and the soft singing of night birds, that Sasuke paused and looked at Naruko with unusual tenderness. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "Naruko, all these years, all the trials, I feel like something more than just friendship has grown between us. Your strength, your kindness, and the light you bring have made me see the world in a new way, and maybe even love you." There was a sincerity and a boldness of confession in her words that captured Naruko's heart. Naruko froze for a moment, her eyes filled with a soft glint. Her heart began to beat faster, and she quietly whispered, "Sasuke, I feel it too. You've been with me this entire journey, and I can't imagine what it would be like without you." They slowly moved closer to each other, and their lips met in a gentle, warm kiss that marked a new chapter in their relationship. It was a kiss that reflected all the experiences, joys, fears, and hopes they had shared throughout their history together. It was a confirmation that there was room for love and deep affection in each of their hearts. After that tender moment, they continued walking hand in hand, enjoying the atmosphere of calm and mutual affection. Naruko felt as if her soul had completely found peace, and next to Sasuke, she felt real, loved and understood. Sasuke, in turn, felt that their connection had become even deeper, that there was an unbreakable bond between them, based on mutual understanding and sincere love. In the days that followed, life in Konoha flowed peacefully, filled with light and joy. Naruto and Sasuke organized celebrations of peace and harmony together, spent time with friends and family, and shared their experiences and love with those around them. Their relationship became a symbol of unity and hope for new generations of ninja and villagers. They made decisions together, drawing on the wisdom gained from years of great trials, and by their example, inspired others to seek peace and love. As they ended one evening, sitting on the open-air terrace, Naruko hugged Sasuke tighter. They looked up at the starry sky, and in that silent moment, their silent promise was heard, to love each other, to support and protect each other, to move forward together, facing whatever challenges life might bring. Their love was sincere and mature, it didn't require words, their hearts spoke for them. At this point in their story, a logical and satisfying conclusion had been reached. There was no need to hint at a sequel. Their journey, filled with struggle, trials, and victories, had found its conclusion in peace, love, and harmony. Naruto and Sasuke, standing together under the starry sky, knew that their story had ended on a high note, and their hearts were forever connected by the light and love that had been carried through the ages. That's the end of my story.